MLW War Chamber is coming up March 29th, of Friday at 7 p.m. in Tampa, St. Petersburg, Florida, at the historic Coliseum. Plenty of history there. Lots of events. Renovation, of course, from way back in the day. I mean, this thing is, I think, 1910, 1920 is how old this place is. It's really cool that MLW, Major League Wrestling, will be having a show. And if you haven't checked out Major League Wrestling, please do. There is some top-notch talent there. They put on great shows. Corpower, MSL, the whole crew there that put on shows. And this man, WWE alum, he's wrestled the Florida circuit. He's involved with Coastal Championship Wrestling. We love CCW here. Top dollar, AJ Francis. Thank you so much, AJ. Got to start off with this MLW War Chamber. Just what are your thoughts on now being a part of MLW?
It's cool. A lot of my friends have been in MLW for years. A lot of my friends were in MLW years ago. And it's cool to be able to be a part of it now. Guys the likes of Alex Kane, who I have a lot of respect for, but I'm a lot better than. He is, has been running roughshod through MLW. He needed a real true challenge, and I came to show up to give him that. I'm very much looking forward to doing the show in Tampa. Anytime I only got to drive to a show from my house, I'm a big fan. So, very much looking forward to that. I live in Orlando, and it'll be a great show.
Think about MLW. Now Matt Riddle's joined the crew. Bobby Fish is there. Davey Boy Smith Jr. has been there a while. You got Filthy Tom Lawler. And the list goes on and on. There's some great talent. Veteran, alum, great talent. Raven is part of MLW now as well. What are your thoughts about this current roster that MLW is packaging and showing us?
I think it's great, and I think that after I get done with Alex Kane, which should be easy money, after I'm done with him, I feel like I'm going to be able to go through the entire roster. There's nothing I think that should stop me from becoming MLW champion when the opportunity arises.
What are your thoughts of Mr. St. Laurent, MSL?
I mean, MSL, he cuts the check, He pays dollar, and if you pay dollar, I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna give you your money's worth. So as long as he keeps cutting the check, everything's gonna be gravy, baby.
MSL, one of our South Florida alum. We love MSL here. I'll tell you that right now. And he's paying top dollar to top dollar. That's what I'm talking about, right?
All facts.
Hey, AJ, I'm curious too with MLW, and I want to mention this as well because for this big event, War Chamber, you could see it live on Triller TV, and it'll also be taped for broadcast on beIN Sports USA and also MLW's YouTube channel. There's going to be a lot of great matches. The War Chamber itself is really cool. I'm wondering, how did you get your hookup? How did you get linked with MLW?
Well, honestly, it's funny. It's through Alex Kane. Alex Kane is the person who brought me in. We have had a special relationship for a long time. He just dragged his feet a little too long, and an offer was made by MSL, and the rest is history. I go where the money goes. You know what I'm saying? Like, I follow the money. So if Alex would have opened up his piggy bank a little quicker, I might be part of Boomaye. But now I'm trying to take it over.
So Alex Kane brings you in, and now you're going to take Alex Kane out.
Yeah. They say when you go to prison, first thing you're supposed to do is punch the biggest, baddest man right in his mouth and tell him you run it now. So that's what I did.
AJ, it's so cool seeing your just evolution, just your elevation, this whole process for you. Football, a big part of your life. Also, education, a big part of your life. I know you got your college degree from University of Maryland. And if I'm not mistaken, you did get it in government and politics?
Yeah, my undergrad is in government and politics. My master's degree is in international economics. So I got both from the University of Maryland. I graduated early when I was still playing football. So my last year playing on the Maryland Terrapins, I was already in grad school. And then when I was in the NFL, I finished my master's degree because the NFL pays for it. So, it was I've been able to do a lot.
That's really cool if the NFL does that as well for its players. I think that's a cool thing. I didn't even know about that. And did you know about that just coming in when you were first getting into the NFL? They offered several programs, and you were like, whoa, they're offering this?
it's part of like your rookie initiation. Like they tell you all the things that bring it in, but the thing is like you only get it once you're like vested. So, I was vested luckily when I decided to finish up. But it's cool that they were able to actually I think they changed it and you don't have to be vested anymore, but you did when I was there. But it's cool that they help people out so much. And you know, there's a very big positive in NFL players going back to school to finish their degree. So it's a good look for them, and it's obviously a good look for the person that does it.
You take advantage of it. That's really cool. I remember down here, we had some players at Florida Atlantic University that were really good, and they ended up making an NFL. And just listening to them talk about the NFL as well. I mean, even though you're part of a team.
Are you talking about Alfred Morris?
Running back, baby. Now Washington Generals. Alfred Morris. Yeah. That man, he stretches that dollar. Let me tell you something, Top Dollar. He stretches that dollar. Alfred Morris is the best when it comes to that.
Alfred Morris, I played him when he was on the Cowboys. And I was on the Washington Commanders. And Thursday Night Football, I slammed the hell out of him. So tell everybody at FAU that.
Oh, man. Yeah, you slammed him, but I bet he still had his money in his pocket.
Yeah, he sure did. I almost slammed the coins out of his pocket. I slammed the hell out of him.
That's so cool. AJ, but it's such a credit to you and others like that, like Alfred, that are able to, because listen, when you're in pro football and pro wrestling even, I mean, you're taking care of yourself, you're taking care of your family. So how important was it for you, even growing up and then getting into sport, that I'm gonna get my degree. I'm gonna just keep an eye on my things and what's going on.
Yeah, I mean that was always the method. My dad is a coach, basketball coach, football coach. He's coached guys that have played in the NFL. He's coached guys that have played in the NBA. He's coached guys that have played basketball overseas. So like he understands the business. He's worked with John Calipari and some of the biggest names in basketball as well. So like he knows the business of sports. And so like education was always brought in the forefront for me by him. So that was not hard for me to keep that up. I just knew, I knew that the NFL was never guaranteed. I knew that I was going to be a wrestler. I didn't know, if I was going to play in the NFL. I didn't know how long I'd play in the NFL or if I'd even go to college when I was in high school. Like I knew I would, but I also knew it's not guaranteed. And I also knew if I didn't get a college degree that I couldn't afford to go to college. So I made a point to do that as well because I wanted to better my life.
And it's interesting, you mentioned your dad, you mentioned John Calipari, great basketball coach, Kentucky now, and all doing things there, but even before that. But I'm curious because I just saw a video of some AJ Francis hooping it up. It's some big event in Houston, some nice charity event in Houston. You got some game, you got some basketball in there.
Yeah, actually, I flew to Houston the next morning. The charity event was actually in my hometown in Baltimore. But yeah, I'm a hooper, man. I always have been. I just 6'5", 330 is not prototypical, NBA size. It's perfect for the NFL, but the NBA is not so much. So, I couldn't really get the basketball career that I always wanted. Honestly, I wanted to play in the NBA more than the NFL, but, I'm still a bucket. I still shoot a J right in somebody's face if I need to.
I'm looking at you, and you're scoring inside because you got the body. But then you're taking threes and you're hitting the threes. I'm like, what's going on here?
No rim. Bro, hey, what Larry Bird used to say, I hit all net because I don't want too much iron in my diet.
And I'm thinking, see, if you would have been prototypical bad boys, Detroit bad boys, the New York Knicks back in the day when Riles coached, I'm telling you, you would have fit back then. Now the game has changed so much and all. So center, power forwards, not as much.
Yeah, it's positionless basketball now for the most part.
So listen, it's love to talk about sports. MLW is doing big things. You're part of MLW. That's awesome. I want to talk a little bit about CCW, Coastal Championship Wrestling. But I found some of these things interesting for you. You played offensive tackle and defensive tackle for your high school, and that was Gonzaga College High School in Washington, D.C. area, because you're from the Maryland area. That's where you grew up and all. And tell me this, AJ, did you used to drive like 30 miles to get to school?
Yeah.
Was it like a far? What made you decide to go there? It's a Catholic private school, but what made you decide to go there and do that?
Well, Gonzaga, for those that don't know, Gonzaga is also the alma mater of Caleb Williams, who's about to be the #1 pick in the draft. It's the alma mater of Kevin Hogan, who ran through Stanford and took them to the Rose Bowl and was one of the best quarterbacks for a long time at Stanford, the best quarterback since John Elway at Stanford. My senior class alone, we had 3 guys play in the NFL from my senior class in 2008 at Gonzaga. Gonzaga, when Villanova won the national championship in basketball with the 3-pointer at the buzzer, Chris Jenkins made that shot at the buzzer. He went to Gonzaga. Gonzaga is a factory for producing top-level athletes, and it's a really good school. So when I had the opportunity to go there, it was a no-brainer to go there. Now, the first year and a half that I was there, I had to take the MARC train, which was like a 40-minute train ride into D.C., and I had to walk 5 blocks from the train station to the school, and I did that every single day to school and from school for a year and a half. Then my uncle went off to the war in Iraq, and he sold his car to my dad, and my dad gave me his 1994 Acura Vigor with cloth seats, with a radio that didn't work, and the speedometer worked, but the odometer didn't work. The gas gauge didn't work. So I used to have a little notebook in my car because I knew I could get about 300 miles for a gallon for a tank. So I would have the little notebook to like know when I filled up so that I could fill up before it ran out of gas. Um, and I used to drive that about, on a good day, 40 minutes, on a bad day, 2 hours to get from, where I lived to where I went to high school. And I did that for 2.5 years before I finally graduated. But I tell people all the time that made me a very responsible person. Like at 14 years old, I was commuting to high school. Like a lot of grown adults commute to work, but not a lot of kids commute to school, right? So I was taking the initiative to better my life at 14 years old, and it just continued all the way through. And it gave me a work ethic that I still have to this day.
Self-made individual, and then it paid off because you can tell me if I'm wrong in this. You ended up going to University of Maryland, go Terrapins, but you also Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, Notre Dame, FSU, Virginia, Boston College. These were all big-time schools, big-time academic schools, big-time football schools. They were all on the list. What made you? Was it being near home that made you decide Maryland? Was it Mojo Rawley that made you decide Maryland? What happened?
No, I got a funny story about Mojo though. But when I was at the university of when I was in high school, I had like 25 offers in college, and the coaching staff at Maryland, Coach Friedgen, Coach Salazzo, they just made me feel like I knew I was wanted everywhere, but they made me feel like I was needed at Maryland. You know what I'm saying? And also like a little bit of a get back at Bobby Bowden and the Florida State Seminoles. I've actually never told this story, but my dad and me went on a recruiting. He took me on like recruiting tours in summer for football camps. We did like Georgia Tech, Wake Forest. That's how I got those offers. I actually got an offer from Georgia because they just heard that I got an offer from Georgia Tech. I'd never talked to anyone at Georgia, and the people at Georgia called. It was like, we want to offer you a scholarship, because that's how college works, right? So, and I go to the Florida, and one of the last stops was Florida State's camp, and I grew up a Florida State fan. Like I loved Warrick Dunn, I loved Charlie Ward, like, right. So I loved Florida State as a kid, and I wanted to go to Florida State, and we show up to the camp, and my dad has the dates wrong. He has the dates for the previous year's camp, so we missed the first 2 days of the camp. But my dad's like, yo, school, we don't need a refund for those 2 days. Just let my kid go out there and play these last 2 days, and he'll show you that he should be here. Like he wants to be here. Duh, duh. And then they were like, oh no, sorry, you can't let it do that. Protocol, da da da. So I was like, all right, I'm like pissed off. So I tell my dad right then and there, I said, we're walking out of the camp to our car in the parking lot. And I said, call Coach Friedgen and tell him I'm going to Maryland. And and he called Coach Friedgen, and I committed to Maryland. And later, obviously, Bobby Bowden didn't have anything to do with this because he wasn't the person there at the gate. But Bobby found out about this, and like a couple weeks later, came to my school to like try to like smooth it over. And then I was like, nah, I'm cool. I'm gonna go to Maryland. And every time you see me, you're gonna remember that I could have been at Florida State. And I used to have some of my best games in college against Florida State. It was like my mission to like destroy Florida State every time I played them. So that is a true story of why the original reason why I committed to Maryland. Yeah.
That is so cool. And obviously, down here is a University of Miami fan. Go Canes.
Yeah.
That. I really like that story. But it's interesting. Do you think if you would have went into the camp, if they would have said, okay, come in, things might have been a little different than with your decision?
Absolutely. No, I look back now as an adult, knowing what I know, because you got to realize at the time I lived in Maryland, I'd been to DC, I'd been to Baltimore, but like as far as like living somewhere else, never. I never lived anywhere else. I didn't know how else other places were. So there's a bunch of things that I think would have changed. Like I could have went to Alabama, but like Nick Saban had just got the job. They had the same record as Maryland. Like, why would I go to Alabama? You know what I'm saying? Then they win 3 national championships while I'm in college. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Who
like, yeah, I
knew?
could have went.
Yeah, but who knew?
Exactly. I could have went to Auburn, but who knew they would have got Cam Newton out of junior college? And you know what I'm saying? Like, and they won a national championship while I was in college too. You know what I'm saying? Like, the one that I always tell people, you're gonna like this one, is now that I've lived in Miami and I played on the Dolphins, if I was supposed to take a visit to Miami the week after that Florida State visit, but because I committed to Maryland, I didn't take the visit. And knowing what I know now with the climate and the culture and the women in Miami, I would have definitely went to Miami. I would have went to the U for sure. 100% would have went to the U. Now, knowing what I know now. So, but yeah, I was just a young kid, and I still, it still was a great decision. Still worked out for me. But I definitely would have went to the U. Can't lie.
Oh man, this is all because Florida State. See what you did? You ruined it for everybody. Like they always ruin things. They ruin for everybody. But wow, I'll try to do this quickly for you. But this is so cool because you mentioned how you're a big FSU fan. Do you get the ACC network?
Not anymore. No, not as Maryland's in the Big Ten. I don't really follow the ACC as much.
Okay, I was going to say,
even though I played in the ACC, I follow Maryland. So.
Well, here's why I'm saying this, AJ. There's a really cool documentary on Charlie Ward that they have on there. It is awesome because Warrick Dunn's in it, but everybody's in it. But it's just a two-way player, basketball, football, and one of the nicest people, even back then, a kid, a leader, one of the nicest people you ever want to meet.
It's crazy. People don't appreciate, like, when they talk about the greatest athletes to ever live, like, they talk about Bo Jackson, rightfully so, and they talk about Deion Sanders, rightfully so, but, like, let me be clear. Like, I want to make this point clear. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But winning the Heisman and playing in the NBA is the greatest athletic feat in the history of sports. I don't care about playing in the NFL and playing in Major League Baseball. It takes more skill to play in the Major League Baseball than it does to play in the NBA, but the level of athleticism that it takes to play in the NBA is a completely different level of athlete. Charlie Ward's the greatest athlete to ever grace the face of this planet, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that, and I have to say this, because of what Charlie Ward did at FSU, if you had gone to FSU, would you try to play basketball too, or no?
You know what's funny is that I probably could have, because Mike Jazz was the assistant coach at Florida State for Leonard. What's his last name? Can't remember his last name. But he used to be the head coach at Florida State, and Mike Jazz.
Leonard Hamilton.
Is Leonard Hamilton? Is that his name?
Well, Leonard Hamilton's there. He's been there for a long time coaching basketball at FSU.
Yeah. So. But Mike Jazz was his assistant coach for a while at Florida State. And Mike Jazz used to be the head coach at Towson University in Baltimore. And him and my dad are good friends. And I used to go to Mike Jazz's basketball camp and win MVP at the camp when I was like 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. I used to dominate his camp. So I absolutely probably could have played basketball there because Jazz knew that I was a bucket.
That is so cool. It's just so cool and all. You've made awesome decisions, but how many options? You think about it. You
Yeah.
live in the decisions you make and you revel in that and be happy for that. But for you, just hearing your story, there were so many options and so many good
Yeah.
options for you
Yeah.
because of what you did when you were younger, growing up and having those opportunities and just having a good mindset for everything. Academically, how good were the academics for you?
Easy. School's always been easy for me. I've been blessed. I'm very intelligent and naturally, I don't really. My whole life, I people hate when I say. My dad hates when I say this. Like I rarely ever studied. Like I rarely had to like work hard in school. I just got good grades because I was smart and paid attention and knew how to make it work. Um, so like I've been even like when I was in college, like I studied in college, I studied like 4 times ever, and I have a master's degree. So it's like I'm just blessed, right? So it's like for me, academics were always easy, but it took me till I was in college to realize that that wasn't the case for everybody. Even in high school, like because I went to Gonzaga, a lot of kids there are really smart as well. Um, so like high school didn't really strike me till I got to college, and I realized like, yeah, this is not like it's not as easy for everybody else as it is for me, and it's a blessing that I have, for sure.
Anyone you played football with or against got into pro wrestling too?
Mojo Rawley, you mentioned him. Oh, I didn't tell that story. So my
Mojo, TMZ
so my,
Sports, friend of the show, Mojo.
so so my first ever, this is true. My first so when I first get to Maryland, so I had mononucleosis my last like month of high school, the kissing disease. I was kissing too many girls. And I got sick and my spleen like overgrew, right? And you can't work out with an overgrown spleen because it's dangerous and you can literally die if it pops, right? So my first like 2 months I'm at Maryland, I can't work out with the team. I'm just going to school, right? So then by the time I finally get cleared to go work out with the team and whatnot, it's max day, right? And everybody's maxing out on power cleans. I've never power cleaned before in my life. So I power cleaned like 185 that day. Now, mind you, later on, 2018, I squatted 800 pounds. So, like, I'm clearly one of the strongest humans to ever walk Earth, right? But I've never power cleaned before. It's all about technique. I'm 18 years old. I got baby fat. I don't have that man muscle yet. So, and I haven't worked out in 2 months. So I power clean 185. I'm like, all right, cool. I did 185. But it's max day for everybody else. Mojo Rawley, D. Matati, gets on the damn bar. And I want to say he had like 405. I want to say it was 405. But he power cleans it and then presses it above his head. Just for shits and giggles. He didn't even have to press it above his head. He just did it because he could, right? So it was the craziest thing ever. And as soon as he did it, I was watching. And as soon as it happened, I knew that I was his backup. He was a senior and I was a freshman. And I was sitting there watching, and I said, "Oh, I'm never gonna play here. I'm never gonna play here. I'm never gonna play." Like I didn't know it at the time that like eventually my power clean. I never got up to 405, but I did like 385. But like I was at the time, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm never gonna play here ever."
Did Mojo help you out when you started to when you wanted to get into that pro wrestling? Did Mojo help you out at all, or did you talk to Mojo at all?
Mojo is the biggest help of anyone I ever had to get me into professional wrestling. Mojo, when I was still in the NFL and I knew that I wanted to be in professional wrestling, the wrestling business is all about who you know. Mojo would put me in the room. You know what I'm saying? Like Mojo introduced me to people in the business. Mojo's the reason I know Mercedes Monet. He's the reason I know Kalisto. He's the reason I know my buddy Justin Leslie, who's the person that invited me to Paige's movie premiere. And when I went to that movie premiere, that's where I met Matt Bloom, who got me my tryout, which is how I got signed. Right. So like Mojo is the reason that I have made it to WWE. He put me in the room. He put me around people. He's the reason I met Charlotte Flair. He's the reason I met Baron Corbin. He's the reason I met so many different people. Adam Cole. He's the reason I met all these different people. And if it wasn't for Mojo, I wouldn't be here.
Have you been on TMZ Sports?
Yeah, I did. I was on TMZ Sports to promote my debut at TNA. So he's brought me on there too. It's my guy.
That is so cool. I'm glad he's doing so well with everything too. He's one of the nicest people. What a good guy. Very into what he's doing and all. Always glad for Mojo's success as well.
Yeah, he texted me this morning too.
So now a few more questions. I want to get you out of here, but that is so cool. I got to go back to this because you mentioned that car and that the radio didn't work, but you're into music. I'm thinking that's good for you because you could just do your own music as you're going and thinking things.
So kids, all right, there's this thing that used to be called a cassette player. In 1994, it was huge, right? So mind you, it's 2006 when I'm driving this car, but it's the car's a 1994. So there's a cassette player in it. So there it is. There you go. That's what the
I'll show it. I'll show it. I'll show it, AJ. I'll show it.
Yeah. See. Yeah. So that's what the new AEW set looks like too. A cassette player. It's cool. It looks like a cassette. But so the car radio didn't work and the CD player didn't work either, but the cassette worked. So I had one of those janky cassettes that like plugs into a CD player and you can like play a CD through the cassette player, right? So I had one of those. So I had my anti-shock Walkman, there you go, plugged into the cassette player in my car so I could listen to music. Yeah.
What we listening to? What are the go-tos?
Yeah, back then I was a lot of Jay-Z, Lil Wayne, and then my mom used to make these like R&B mashup albums with like Boys to Men and Brian McKnight. So sometimes on night drives I'd listen to that, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it was a lot. It was cool. Biggie, Eminem, yeah, for sure.
Was it cool seeing Snoop Dogg get in the ring?
Absolutely. No, the coolest thing about that ever happened for Snoop for me is that he knew who I was when I met him at WrestleMania last year. It's me and the rest of Hit Row. We go to introduce ourselves to Snoop. And I'm like, hey, Snoop, what's up, man? I'm about to be like, yeah, my name's Top Dog. Before I can even finish saying my thing, he's like, AJ, what's up, man? I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, what? In my mind, I'm like, did that just happen? Like, so then we have our conversation, we take a picture with him, blah, 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 blah. And then I as we're walking away, I asked Ashante the Adonis, I was like, did you hear that? He was like, yeah, he knew who you were. I was like, oh, dude. Well, I thought I just made that up in my mind, right? So, but he knew me because a lot of people know for a long time I was doing like a music video every Friday on my social media account. And I was using famous beats, and I obviously used Snoop beats all the time. And like he had seen him, like so like he knew who I was off of that. So like he told me he loved my flow and all that. So that was like the coolest thing to me.
It's just amazing, and all the things that you're involved in and do, and you never know who's going to see or watch something. You never know. With social media and YouTube and Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, all these different Instagram, all these different platforms and all. It's just amazing. I'll ask you this about Coastal Championship Wrestling, and I'll get you out of here. The thing is, Coastal Championship Wrestling's been around 20 years. They're one of the biggest indie promotions anywhere. Oldest running in Florida, one of the oldest in North America. They're doing big things regularly. It's not like once a month. I mean, they're going throughout Florida and even in Tennessee.
Last week they had 2 shows on the same night, and they were both sold out in different cities.
That for an indie show, that's incredible. That's amazing. You know, WWE used to do double shots, but this is amazing for a company doing double shots. You've worked in Florida before going with WWE, getting signed there and all. Now you're doing CCW. What are your thoughts about Coast Championship Wrestling? What are your thoughts about Cha Cha Charlie?
Cha Cha Charlie is going to get his 3rd loss in 3 matches in a cage match on April 13th. All right, April 13th, Hialeah, Florida, steel cage match, AJ Francis versus Cha Cha Charlie. The last two shows are two of the biggest shows they've ever had. They were the shows that I was on. Okay. Um, People don't know that. A lot of people don't know this. I was wrestling at CCW before I got to WWE. Um, and a lot of people don't know I did a year on the Indies before I got to WWE. And the biggest crowd I ever worked in until even because when I worked in NXT, it was in the Performance Center. The biggest crowd I ever worked in until I debuted on SmackDown was in CCW in 2019. It was a triple threat ladder match for the tag team titles. It was me, Jake St. Patrick, versus a bunch of other people too. Alex Ocean being one of them.
Alex Ocean. I was going to bring
Yeah,
up Alex Ocean.
Alex Ocean
You
being one of
gotta,
them.
I want to hear this. I do want to hear more about this because I was there for that show. That giant ladder. AJ, you were on the table.
Yes. So think about this. So I know that I'm going to WWE, right? I know this already. So I started training I had my first match October 2018. I was untrained. I had started training November 2018. In February 2018 is when I meet Matt Bloom, and he tells me my tryout is in April. April, I have my tryout, okay? June, they tell me they're going to sign me in January. So now I have 6 months to basically just be ready, right? So I hit the Indies. I was already doing the Indies up until then, but after I found out, I hit the Indies hard for those 6 months. And I definitely used hey, I used to play in the NFL and I'm going to WWE. Put me on your show. You'll want to have put me on your show when the future comes out. Right. So, and then you know how some promoters are. Some promoters are like, we don't need it. Blah, blah, blah. And then now those same promoters now are like, please come do the show. We'll pay you a lot. I'm like, oh, you remember who I am now? Oh, okay. You fuck with me now. Okay. Right. So, CCW was one that they actually were smart enough to be like, yeah, come on, do the show. So, first show I go on, I go do a battle royal. Cool, blah, blah, blah. I make a save for Army Hero at the end of the match, and then I do a fucking over the top rope dive on the people. And then that was the fucking battle royal, right? So, and it was on the pre-show. So it was like I was just out there doing whatever the hell I wanted to do, right? So then after that, they're like, all right, well, we'll never put him on the pre-show again. How about we put him in the main event? So the very next time I came to CCW was that triple threat ladder match, and Alex Ocean, who at the time was jumping off anything he could get, he was like, yo, I got this 30-foot ladder. I want to jump off of it. I was like, all right, cool. I'm down, right? So we get to the day of the show, and I'm thinking he's going to dive onto like all of us, right? And everybody else is like, nah, I'm not going to do that. Nah, I'm not going to do that. Nah, I'm not going to do that. But I'm the last person to show up to the show. So I'm talking to Alex. I'm like, all right, so how we setting up the dive? And he's like, nobody wants to catch me, so I'm not going to do it. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I was like, can't nobody just lay on the table or something and have you elbow drop or something? He's like, yeah, but nobody wants to do it. I was like, I'll do it. Like, you know, you know what I'm saying? So that's the thing to me about people don't realize is like football is so much more painful, at least for me, than wrestling ever will be. Because wrestling at most, if I do a 30-minute match at my size, at most, I'm bumping like 5 times at most, right? In a 30-minute match, someone my size, for it to make sense, I'm bumping like 5 times, right? In a 30-minute match. In a football game, I'm gonna play 80 plays. Okay? In a football practice, I'm gonna play 100 plays. You know what I'm saying? And it's just physical warfare over and over again. So it's not, to me, I'm willing to, that's why I do so much crazy shit. That's why I have people jump on me. And that's why I was down with Alex Ocean giving me that elbow drop. And so the elbow drop went viral because it was still to this day, I've never seen a crazier spot on the indie show. He was 22 feet up in the air. He jumps off and gives me an picture perfect elbow drop. Couldn't have hit it any better. Hold on. Yeah. Picture perfect elbow drop. Couldn't have hit it any better. And it was just a great show.
It was amazing. That crowd, too, when the crowd is just like gasps for something. Because it's hard. Everybody does so much.
Because everybody sees the big ladder, like when the mat, like it was out there the whole night. But like nobody actually expects it to be used. So when he starts climbing the ladder, people are like, "Wait, what the hell's going on right now?" Like, and then he gets up low, slow, and he gets up there, and people are like, "Yo, what up?" And then like, it's crazy when you watch it back. His feet are above the backboard of the gym in the high school. It's like crazy, like crazy.
And when he was going up the ladder too, it was one of those. He did a really good job at this because he would stop, almost like, "All right, I'm going to jump from this spot." No, I'm keeping going. And Alex Osha kept going. And I'm thinking, AJ, what are you getting yourself into?
So one thing is funny is that like he always afterwards he told me he was like after we saw the clip he was like, "Clip's great." He said because he didn't go all the way to the top, but he was like when we watched it back he was like, "I should have went all the way to the top." He was like the only reason he didn't. He said he got up there. He said it looked way different from up there than it did from down there. So he was like when he got to the height he was at, he was like, "Yeah, this is good. This will be good." But when he watched it back, he was like, "I should have went to the top. Should have went to the top."
It was one of the most just unbelievable, coolest moments for CCW. And like I said, they've been around for 20 years. Nelio, the OG Dan Evans, and WWE alum Gangrel really putting it together and doing so. And QT Marshall's involved now. There's so many involved in it with CCW. It's just amazing. All right, I'm gonna get you out of here because we spent so much time. We'll talk Miami Dolphins another time. We could always do that. I love all the stories you shared. Couple things I'm gonna throw at you because you mentioned Caleb Williams, and I'm gonna mention Pat Buchanan, political boss. This is old school, and also Thomas W. Farley, the president of NYSE, which is the New York Stock Exchange. I'm putting AJ Francis number in that group. I'm putting him on the Mount Rushmore of Gonzaga College High School alums. What do you say, AJ? Am I good on that?
Absolutely. Hey man, I ain't gonna lie. I feel like I deserve to be there too. So you making the right decision. You know what I'm
saying? And now, by the way, Alfred Morris would be proud of you for checking your mileage when you were in high school and making sure you had enough money and enough miles in there. Alfred Morris would be proud. He's frugal. I'm telling you, AJ, he's very frugal. Hey, you're a poet too. The poet laureate Lanny Poffo 2.0. That's AJ Francis. I had to get that in there. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with, last one, as we talked MLW War Chamber coming up March 29th, Friday. Tampa St. Pete, the historic Coliseum, 7 p.m. Check it out. Get your ticket. Go to the show. If not, check it out on Triller TV. It's going to be an amazing event. AJ Francis, part of MLW. I love MLW. What a great roster. Great creative, great storylines and all. But I'm going to end it with this. This is something I love here. Okay, tell me about, as we get out of here, your high school spring musical. Each year, your high school spring musical, AJ.
Yeah, I used to do all the musicals in the spring. We did Annie, we did Guys and Dolls, we did West Side Story. I was always an adult in the movies. In the story because I was so much bigger than all the other kids, so I couldn't play a kid. So, but it was fun. It was good, man. It where I honed my acting chops. Wrestling is just acting. Like people don't realize that wrestling is just live action acting. It's a live action play. You do your own stunts. If you got one take, that's all it is.
Were you singing "Luck Be a Lady" tonight? Were you singing that in Guys and Dolls?
Of course, man. Luck be a lady. If you hear me, luck be a lady tonight. Come on, man.
Yes, I love it. Old school Sinatra. Yes. AJ, thank you so much. All the best. Keep doing your thing.
I appreciate you, brother. Peace.